John Hanning speak. That is what is recorded in the history. The whole year the Kawaka just met one bearded, smelly white man. The whole year. I mean, Smith didn't have a shower. He was coming all the way from the coast. The only thing we knew yesterday, the whole Kawaka of Uganda, was that he met this one lonely, lost wife. How is that possible? How is it possible? Then they teach us in primary school. Stanley passed Karagwe, he met Manika, he went to Mbarara, he's a slave. He was like 15. But because my life was the Bible and the survival of our people depended on it, I had to biology, I had to go into genetics, I had to go into mathematics to try and understand it, not only understand it, understand it, so that they can explain it to someone. When I understand it going under the table, I want to stand and talk. When I'm ready to go, I don't want to leave no stone unturned and turn every stone twice.
Your ancestors in the world that you created were able, with very little knowledge, they didn't know the European, they didn't study the Middle Nature. Shakespeare did not know about Ra. Yeah, Sandra did not go to school, to learn philosophy, to learn military strategy, to learn whatever. Yet in most of the time, they outfought, outgeneraled, outfronted some of the best military genius that Europe had ever possessed. Do that at the time. If they were able to do that at the time, what about you? Who's got a phone? Who's got a fax? You don't only have a phone, you have a fax and a mobile phone.
Every 5 seconds, a child is dying of malaria in Africa. Now, to get the dose of life-saving anti-malaria is about $5. But there is no government to give anti-malaria. When somebody gets malaria, if they have no money, they get ill and die. So the question that I was asking, and many people were asking, was, if you really want to help children, why begin with a disease that they don't have? Why not go why not look for something that is killing them?
This is Oxford, Cambridge, where you go to get this degree, where you get the first degree, which is a BA, bachelor's degree. You know, they don't believe in marriage. So they don't, you know, the only thing they can give you is a bachelor's degree. You know? Because you can stumble on a conference like this and get shocked when a few ideas are thrown in your head. I don't believe what Nana Sekmet said. I don't believe that kind of stuff. It's okay. You know, they teach you how to critique, not to believe anything. You know, when they say, they say, what do you think about black people building their own institutions? You say, well, it has its own advantages and disadvantages.
The high culture of Egyptian civilization that starts around the Nile Valley eventually ends up here in the Giza Plateau, in the pyramids of Giza, one of the highest high technical civilizations that African people put together, starting all the way from Uganda, covering present-day Sudan, and going up here in Egypt.
established that more than 7 million years ago, a black woman stretched forth her hands under God and gave us the first human being. In the beginning was a black woman. This black woman lived at the foothills of the mountains of the moon. This black woman lived in the Iracrostan region, known in ancient time as the land of the gods. This black woman lived at the source of the Nile. This black woman lived between the two domes of the Great Rift Valley. This black woman's genes run through the genes of every human being. This black woman's DNA is the string that connects every person that walks on earth. That is why we say that let him that is worthy be worthy still, and let him that is righteous be righteous still. So behold, I come quickly. My reward is with me to give unto every man and woman for and according to his reward should be. For in the beginning was a black woman. This woman gave rise to a human. Never was a time when a black woman was not. Never will be time when black people will cease to be. Because we are eternal, my brothers and sisters. Well, let me begin by thanking the television station TV Africa that has given me personally the information, that has allowed me to be able to share some of the knowledge that I have acquired over this period of time, that it can come to you in the comfort of your living room or in the discomfort of your workplace, but at least it begins to open your third eye. Know, all men, that this TV station, TV Africa, is actually the first television station on earth that is Pan-African. It is the first TV station that has attempted, regardless of all impediments, to open your eyes, to bring the good news of African liberation and the good news of salvation to us. It has been a year of tremendous achievement. It has introduced a program known as Secret Revealed. And this Secret Revealed is really amazing secrets, things that you didn't think existed, things that we didn't know were being done. And knowledge is the only information that is of great importance and great relevance. There has never, as far as I know, and I have vast experience in traveling around the world, and every time I travel, I interest myself in television and in radio, but there has not been on the African continent or anywhere in the world a Pan-African station, a station dedicated to the best image and interest of African people. So that is the most powerful thing that has happened, I think, on the African continent this year. People will be asking the question, where were you when TV Africa launched in Uganda? When did you first become aware of this station? When did you first become aware of the knowledge and information that is coming out of TV Africa every day? When did you first set your eyes on the knowledge of the ancients, on the knowledge of your ancestors, on the knowledge of some of the most powerful people that ever graced this world, on the knowledge of black liberators and black inventors and black archaeologists and black paleontologists and black pharaohs and black kings and black rulers and black viceroys and African people who spread civilization to the rest of the world? People will be asking you a question, where were you? And then the other thing is, those of you who drink at the wealth, at this river of knowledge and information, please, I request you, in the name of Africa, that we all adore, in the name of Africa that we all love, in the name of our ancestors whose legacy we must all bear, I request you to spread the word
to spread the information. We need to adopt the African or the Pan-African saying of each one teach one. So each one teach 50. Some of you who have been coming to Television Africa, who have been texting, our Facebook page is full of your comments and full of your gratitude towards what TV Africa offers you. But when you're on Facebook, make sure you introduce at least 50 people to Television Africa. Make sure you verbally recruit people to TV Africa to see what TV Africa has to offer for our race. And also put the names of the people that you've introduced on our Facebook page. And if you are writing, the address is now on the screen. Please write to us. Most of you have been writing. Some of you don't know our address. Write a letter. If the letter is good, we shall post it on our Facebook page and we shall read it. But significantly, also send us SMS through the computer. SMS us. These SMS will also be visible in some of our programs. And the address for the SMS is what you are looking at on the screen right now. So please, keep that knowledge flowing. And if you want to record a video comment, you can record that video comment and send it to us at TV Africa, Chizungu Zone, at Top Mark India here, and send those comments on Plot 4, Mobutu Road. Or you can put the comments in the post. We shall have a day when we shall air these comments. Now, some of the questions that you have been asking me personally is what I'm going to attempt to answer in this program. And that is why I have slowed down my pace, because normally I do not speak at this pace. I have slowed down my pace so that I don't lose anyone, so that we all are in sync. We move with the same rhythm, that rhythm of African knowledge and information. Know you, your men, know African people. Hey, you men of Africa. And hey, you women and queens and heroes and sheroes, that indeed our knowledge that has been issued out on Television Africa to teach you that you, the black person, is the original person, that the black man is the original man, and the black woman is the original human. That is powerful. It is powerful to know that you are the mother and father of humanity. It is powerful to know that wherever humanity exists, it has your DNA. You are the one who has the total sum of collective experience of humanity ingrained in your DNA, which you have passed to your offsprings. So if man learned how to walk right, you taught him how to walk right. If woman learned how to pose and move with great majesty and grandeur, you, the African woman, is credited for this. If humanity breastfeeds its young on a set of breasts, that have to feed our children as a rule, you are the one who invented that rule. You are the one who brought that rule into existence. If we have an articulated symbolic language, it is you, the black person, who has given us that articulated symbolic language. The movement that you see, the gaiety, the forward ambulation, it is you, the black man and the black woman, who has given us this. If humanity has domesticated crops, it was you, black woman, who brought those pumpkins and those sugar canes. It is you, black woman, who brought that, those bananas and that fene and all the fruits that we enjoy today and we take for granted. It was you who first taught us how to eat a mango. It was you who selected and most imagine the experience of finding out whether mango is right to eat or not. It was you, the black person, who discovered that really as long as the fruit doesn't have thorns, it is right to eat. And it was you who gave us exceptions, like oranges that have thorns that we still eat. It was those vast experiments. It was the ingenuity of black man and black woman in making fire and keeping that fire burning. It was your ingenuity, black man and black woman, in making not only fire, but in roasting food and cooking food and preserving, the species. It was you, black man and black woman, that invented, that gave us that granary. that started putting shoes into our feet. It was you, the black man and black woman, who discovered that from cotton or from trees that you can make, clothes and threads. And from threads you can do a yarn. And from a yarn you can make clothes. And on clothes you can do indigo dyes and begin to attach those beautiful patterns, the bright colors that favor the African eye. It was you who first showed us acuity, how to see properly. It was you, black man and black woman, that gave us the first concept of organized religion, that gave us the knowledge of the Creator and put a name to the Creator and called that Creator Lisodene, and called that Creator Katonda, and called that Creator Osiris, and called that Creator Yahuwah. It was you, black man and black woman, that first began a formal organized learning environment, starting with learning under the fire, to learning under the trees, to learning in school, to learning in universities, like the University of Aipet Aisut, where students studied for 36 years, learning the mystery system of learning, divided as you did in 3 stages, each stage lasting 12 years. It was indeed you, black man and black woman, that gave us university cities, like that that gave us great universities, like that University of Sankole that was located in Timbuktu, and gave us the university city of Djenne. It was you, African, that gave us Timbuktu, the mysterious, where traders made more money selling books than gold. It was you, the black woman, the black man, who sat on the Nile and began to plot the movement of the stars and related to the rise and fall of the Nile. And very soon you would be able to tell us the movement of the sky, to count the movement of the stars that grace the heavens, including those stars that are only seen after 1,642 years. Stars like Sirius B. It was you that named the sky, that mapped up the heavens and gave the stars names, like the dog star or the stars that are on Orion's belt, and began to even build buildings that align themselves with the energies of those god stars. Oh, black man and black woman, there has never been anything so beautiful, anything so graceful, anything so majestic, anything so mighty, anything so righteous, anything so bedecked with grace, like a black man and a black woman. It is more beautiful. It is beautiful to be black. Black is not only beautiful, but black is powerful. It is TV Africa that has begun to unravel the power and the magic of melanin. Melanin, the black skin pigmentation. Melanin that is produced by these enzymes and these hormones that we call melatonin. Melanin that needs a catalyst enzyme that we call tyrosinase 7. Melanin is the crown, similar to what I'm wearing on my head. Melanin is the gold and the diamond that is in your body, because when you die, even your body turns into diamond. It is Television Africa, TV Africa, that has unraveled the mystery of melanin and started telling you, black man and black woman, do not bleach your skin, do not use jig, do not use urine, because there is nothing more powerful than black skin. Nothing more powerful than blackness. Darkness is before light, just like blackness was before white. We have told you that melanin helps you, controls your sleeping cycle. A person who doesn't sleep is a restless person. A person who doesn't sleep is an evil person. Sleep maintains your body in a cosmic harmony. Sleep also links you to your ancestors, because when you sleep, you begin to dream even of the people who have departed from this earth. You begin to commune and talk to them, and you begin to continue that intergenerational communication. Melanin enables you to sleep, but we say wake up when you sleep, clean up and stand up. Melanin controls fatigue. As a black person, you don't get tired. Melanin controls hearing. Melanin is responsible for how you walk, how you welcome people. Melanin has been explained in details in terms of dominant genes and recessive gene on TV Africa. It is TV Africa that has explained melanin.
It is TV Africa that has introduced Mendo's Law. You had never heard of Mendo's Law on television. On television in Africa? Where? But now you can stand diligently and talk about Grega Mendo and talk about, genetics, the father of genetics, and how he concluded that a recessive can never produce a dominant. On television Africa, you have learned about Gloger's Law. Gloger's Law that dictates mankind born in the tropics is necessarily pigmented and black. And as you move away from the tropics, things begin to get brighter. But at the equator that divides the earth into two equal halves, that is where all the energies are harmonized. And this is where almost everything is in harmony. And that is why people who live around the equator, most people are moving from all corners of the world to take a small piece of the equator. It is coming. This is where it happened. So this is the equator that separates the north and the south. Anything here will be very dark. Anything away from here, as you move away from the equator, anything going north will become dark, will become light. Anything going south will also become light. So, Gloger's Law means that humanity born around the tropics was necessarily pigmented and black. So that's why when you go to the North Pole or the polar ice cap, everything that you find there is light or is white. Now, Gloger's Law is related to another law, which is known as Mendo's Law. Gregor Mendo, born in 1822, is the father of genetics. When he was young, he didn't have enough money to take him to school. So he went to a monastery of Augustine. Augustine, one of the great founders of the Catholic Church, he wrote the canonical laws that governed the Catholic Church. He lived in Carthage, and he was African. Now, the monks that follow Augustine are known as Augustine monks. So Gregor Mendo went to Augustine monks, and he learned to exercise with plants. And he said, at the end of his different experiments, Mendo concluded that if we had begun with white people, we would never have got black people. Because at the time, the dominant racism in Europe taught that humanity started in Europe, and the European was a core seed population. And actually, anybody who moved from Europe to populate Asia or Europe or the Americas, became a degenerate form of a white person. So that if humanity go to Africa, they became either too dark, or too short, or too dumb, or too tall, or too long. In other words, they became distorted. But Mendo was to prove all this wrong. Mendo established, through different experiments with plants and chickens and other, species, that a mother plant will pass on genes in different sequence, mainly 50% of the genes to the child. And therefore, that a recessive can never produce a dominant, but a dominant can produce a recessive. Now, Mendo's ideas were quite breathtaking because the scientific community ignored him for 32 years. But afterwards, they all had to accept the fact that humanity started with dark-skinned people, and over a period of time from 5.5 million years to 20,000 years, the African Cro-Magnon that lived in Europe was to mutate into the European Cro-Magnon, who is the progenitor of the white race. That was at the time when European domination over the world was very strong. Europeans were gobbling up cultures, were destroying civilizations. So the last thing they wanted to accept was to say that somebody other than the European was really the source of all races. So actually the term race is a sociological construct. It has no meaning in biology. Race means a group of organisms that interbreed and reproduce within themselves over a long period of time, normally 400 years. And humankind is not like that. There is only, as it is said, one race. And that race began from the original peoples of the world, the black people, about 5 to 7 million years ago, here at the foothills of the mountains of the moon, in the land of the gods, and at this source, at the equator. This is where all the energies are aligned with everything that you know a cosmic universe reaches total harmony and total balance at the equator. We call it a corresponding cosmic connection, a corresponding cosmic harmony, a corresponding cosmic unity. That is why the souls of the ancient Egyptians and the souls of the rulers of Mexico would come to rest on the equator at the foothills of the mountains of the moon in the land of the gods, here on Lake Naluvali. On Lake Naluvali, there are volcanic rocks. These volcanic rocks that have iron have a spiritual significance. Have a spiritual significance. Because remember, minerals, have atomic power. Minerals have atomic power. Once you know the atomic power of these minerals, you can harness those powers for yourself. And it is on TV Africa that we have delved and opened the eye and unveiled the secrecy that is surrounding nefarious organizations that worship Satan and worship Lucifer. And yet the people who worship Satan are the rulers of the world. Those rulers of the world, the George Bush and his sons, those rulers of the world, the Bill Clinton, those rulers of the world, the Masons like Tony Blair, the Illuminati, television talking about Illuminati, laying it all open, telling you even what Illuminati is. Those who think they have seen the light, the Masons, illuminated ones, telling you the degrees of Masonry, that there are 3 stages of Masonry, that there are 33 degrees of Masonry, but most Masons never advance beyond the first 2 degrees or the first 3 degrees. Telling you that the Masons worship a god that is known as Baphomet, as Lucifer. They worship Lucifer. And they want to harmonize all world, that this Lucifer demands of them blood. Lucifer demands of these leaders, of these Masons, murder and wars and bloodshed and mayhem and chaos, which they have introduced into the world. Baphomet, who looks like a goat, Baphomet, who was the lord of the Romans bloodthirstiness is transferred through history into Freemasonry. And this Freemasonry is now that govern the world and is seeking to have a one-world Luciferian order where everybody worships Satan. And they are in through the United Nations, and they are in through the environment, and they are in through the World Health Organizations, and they are in through the international treaty, trade organizations. And these organizations, these Freemasons, these Illuminatis, are opposed even by citizens in their own countries.
We are peaceful. This is a public sidewalk. We are peaceful. We are just walking. We're just doing what we're allowed to do. This is a public sidewalk. We can do what we like. You should be embarrassed. Don't push me. Don't push me. I'm done. All right. I didn't know we were talking Nazi Germany. I didn't know this is 1943. I didn't know we were fucking Nazi Germany. Fascists. We're citizens just like you. We're citizens just like you. We're here for your rights. We're here for your rights. The world is watching! Shame! 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 Are you serious?
Let's go. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Let's go.
We're here, Pete!
Charlie.
A good way to get pepper spray on your face.
We're here, Pete!
All across America, wars are being fought on the street by people who don't even have guns. White people standing up saying, enough. America is a dictatorship, all right. But we are going to stand here and oppose these agents of Satan. They worship Satan. The president of America worshipped Satan. The president of Britain, the prime minister of Britain worships Satan. The queen is the head of the Grand Lodge of people who worship Satan. A god that they call Baphomet. A god that they call Jabulan. Jabulan. Equated or the name built from Jehovah and Bar, the god of the Carthaginians, and Osiris, On, Jabulon. That Jabulon is the secret name of the supreme god of the Freemasons, the secret name of the supreme god of the Freemasons, the secret name of the supreme god of the Illuminati, and the Rosicrucians, and the Bohemian Groove, and the Skull and Bone Society. The Skull and Bone Society of George Bush, the Skull and Bone Society, all the people that you hear head banks, lead the world, tell us what to do. Members of the Skull and Bones. And when they become initiated into the Skull and Bones, TV Africa has shown you what they do. They lie in a coffin and masturbate in a coffin and have blood rituals and sacrifice children, black children at that. They walk around clad in clothes of the Ku Klux Klan, whose job is to kill black people. They are intent on destroying world civilizations. They are intent on causing wars and wars and wars, and that is what they promise their God. They promise Baphomet that they will bring hair on earth, and their aim is to bring hair on earth. And we are telling you this. We are telling you about the Freemasons. We are telling you about the Illuminati. This is no mean achievement. This is powerful.
How far has the ancient Illuminati secret society network penetrated world politics? If you read the many books published about conspiracies, then you will learn that many leading authors have alleged that British Prime Minister Tony Blair is a high-ranking Freemason. Mr. Blair is a Queen's Counsel barrister, a profession which has its roots in the Temple Bar, built in London by the Knights Templar secret society in the 12th century. According to many authors, Tony Blair follows the tradition of Masonic membership amongst large numbers of barristers and judges. Mr. Blair is allegedly a member of the 1591 Studholme Masonic Lodge, which meets, amongst other places, at the Café de Paris in London.
The Prime Minister has defended his role in lobbying on behalf of a wealthy Labour Party donor who was negotiating to buy a steel company from the Romanian government. Mr. Blair wrote a letter in support of Lakshmi Mittal, an Indian billionaire who lives in London. Mr. Blair said the letter was a standard one, written on the advice of the Foreign Office. However, opposition MPs are calling for an inquiry into allegations that his intervention helped to clinch the deal for Mr. Mittal's company, which is registered in a Caribbean tax haven. Our political correspondent, Norman Smith, reports.
Lakshmi Mittal donated more than £100,000 to Labour after the last election. Shortly after that, Mr. Blair wrote a letter to the Romanian Prime Minister in support of a successful bid by Mr. Mittal's company, L&M Holdings, to buy a Romanian steelworks.
A retired solicitor once described barristers like Tony Blair as highly paid professional liars. So it is unlikely that Tony Blair will ever come clean about his membership of a secret society. However, one thing we can be sure about. The Masonic establishment at the heart of British society does not like being probed or investigated when it comes to matters of Masonic membership. A recent Select Committee inquiry chaired by Labour MP Chris Mullins found that the Metropolitan Police Force and Judiciary were unwilling to force their members to disclose if they were members of secret societies. In a series of embarrassing revelations in the 1970s and 1980s, the British author Martin Short established that the Scotland Yard Vice Squad and senior CID officers were all Masons and taking bribes from pornographers in London's Soho. Martin Short estimates that 1 in 6 British police officers are Masons, and that there are approximately 600,000 Freemasons in Britain today. Many Freemasons occupy highly paid jobs at local borough councils across Britain, which often have Masonic temples inside council buildings, maintained at the taxpayer's expense. In Scotland, Masons used to proudly parade through the streets. After the exposure of local authority frauds involving corrupt Masonic solicitors and councillors, British Freemasons went underground and now rarely march in view of the public. The public image of British Freemasonry has been damaged by the revelation that supercriminal Kenneth Noye and the men responsible for the Brinks-Mat gold bullion robbery were all Masons. As Prime Minister, Tony Blair has frequent meetings with the Queen. She herself is Grand Patroness of International World Freemasonry, which has its Grand Lodge of England headquarters near Drury Lane in London. The British government employs a huge number of civil servants, magistrates, judges, solicitors and officials, which have all historically been Freemasons. The deceased author of The Brotherhood, Stephen Knight, says that penetration of Freemasonry into the British establishment goes way beyond policemen and parish councils. Knight says that the Palace of Westminster, home to the British Parliament, is used as a meeting place for at least 2 Masonic lodges. One of these lodges is called the New Welcome Masonic Lodge, which regularly hosts blood-curdling rituals and ceremonies inside the Palace of Westminster. Members of Parliament from all political parties gather together, wearing white gloves, sashes, lambskin aprons, and wielding ceremonial daggers, swearing bloodthirsty oaths of allegiance to each other. Just where this leaves British democracy is anyone's guess, but the fact that these secret ceremonies take place in a building paid for by the British taxpayer leaves one wondering if Freemasons do not see themselves as superior to the average British citizen. Many researchers claim British Prime Minister Tony Blair is a high-ranking 33rd degree Freemason. This is the highest rank of Mason, and this elite cabal of British Freemasonry has its own headquarters at number 10 Duke Street, which some claim is connected to number 10 Downing Street via a secret underground tunnel. Inside the Duke Street headquarters of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree, there is a red room, a black room, and a chamber of death, which Masons use for macabre rituals based on ancient Jewish mysticism and Enochian magic. Once initiated into the 33rd degree, Masons are told they are superior beings, and the human population are referred to as being profane goyim, which means cattle. If Tony Blair is indeed a 33rd degree Freemason, then he is following in the footsteps of previous Prime Ministers who have all been members of either Freemasonry, the Knights Templar, or the Round Table, which was started by Sir Cecil Rhodes following his economic conquest of Zimbabwe during the 19th century. Winston Churchill was also a 33rd degree Freemason, initiated into the Studholme Lodge at the headquarters of the 33rd degree in May 1901. Winston Churchill was also a member of the Order of Druids, who often meet at Stonehenge during the spring equinox, whilst members of the British public are forcibly restrained from this ancient megalithic site by thousands of police officers. The ancient Druid rituals at Stonehenge can be considered harmless when compared to the murderous, satanically inspired ceremonies of Freemasonry. Most Freemasons do not progress beyond the first 3 degrees or exams of initiation. These are often called the blue degrees. In fact, many Masons do not even realize that beyond the 3rd degree of Master Mason, that there are higher degrees. The higher degrees of Freemasonry are almost exclusively populated by men of aristocratic lineage or ex-officers of the armed forces. In all, at any one time, there are no more than a few dozen men who reach the 33rd degree. As they pass each ritual test, the ceremonies become more bizarre and include symbols which can be found in ancient Egypt, with initiates being given pompous titles such as sovereign, prince, or knight. When we see Tony Blair meeting with George Bush Jr., we are actually seeing 2 knights of secret orders. Blair is rumoured to be a sovereign knight of Malta, whilst Bush is confirmed as being a knight of Eulogia, his title bestowed upon him whilst laying in a coffin at the Skull and Bones Secret Society headquarters at Yale University. Blair and Bush claim to have democracy and freedom as their #1 priorities, but both have sworn blood-curdling oaths of allegiance to ancient Babylonian, Egyptian, and Jewish demon gods. Both have sworn on pain of death not to reveal the secrets of their Masonic orders. Both have been initiated into the age-old Illuminati global network, which is obsessed with death and murder. I mean, are we being ruled by politicians who consult with Baphomets and demons?
Yes, we are. The way the world is structured is like a compartmentalized pyramid, and it's pyramids within pyramids, like Russian dolls, one doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll. So you'll have a compartmentalized pyramid that is the British government, for instance, where the people at the bottom don't know what the top is really going towards, what the agenda really is. Just as in in a bank, you've got a bank, and the people at the bottom of the bank who take the checks over the counter, they don't know what's going on above them, and they don't know what's going on above them. And eventually, in all these pyramids, you have a tiny little number of people at the top that are actually the only people that know how the whole game fits together. Everyone else is just playing their part in ignorance. And so what the Illuminati do is they make sure that only their people, or those that are not a problem to them, will reach those levels of power in which decisions have to be made to push this agenda forward. When people say sometimes, well, you see these people everywhere, you see these one and these one other. No, hold on a second. No, they're at these high positions of power. Therefore, because of this process of filtering them out, if you're not one of us, mate, you ain't going to get sponsored by the right people to get these positions of power. And if you slip through the net, there's going to be a scandal, or there's going to be something we're going to bring up that's going to bring you down because you're not one of our guys. And so therefore, the ratio of people who are into these dark satanic rituals, etc., two positions of real power in the world, are very, very high compared with the general population, where it's nothing like as high, of course. And so the question answers itself, in my experience, when people say, do you think the Prime Minister of Britain's involved? And my reply is he the Prime Minister of Britain? Yeah, well, he's involved, particularly Britain, because the reason, you see, that you cannot put a cigarette paper between the British Prime Minister ever and the President of the United States, whether Democrat or Republican, is because both are answering to exactly the same masters. And Blair and Bush, who are gophers, I mean, the real power you don't see. They're just, they're on public display, they're still at gopher level. They are far more terrified of those in the shadows dictating to them than they are of public reaction to them. Because the most that public reaction can do is kick them out. It's not the most that the people in the shadows can do. I was talking years, indeed, before Blair came to power, that Blair was a chosen one and that he would be brought through. And one of his tasks would be to take Britain into the euro, among many other things. And this is why Bush and Blair speak from the same song sheet, because the same people are handing out the song sheets. So yes, absolutely is involved. And so are the British royal family in horrendous rituals that go on at places like Balmoral. And if what really goes on comes out, and it will, people like Bush and Blair and the British royal family will have to reincarnate many times to complete the sentence.
Okay, let's do it. 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 Okay, let's do it.
I was an FBI agent for 27.5 years. At the time of my retirement, I was the senior special agent in charge of the FBI Los Angeles Division. I have been qualified in the courts as an expert on cults and satanic ritual abuse. I have information from various sources that judges, law enforcement, prosecutors, attorneys, doctors, and many prominent individuals, including actors, actresses, professional football and baseball players, are involved in these type activities. If you go back 225 or 30 years ago, you have what we call the Illuminati that was established in 1776. And the goals of the Illuminati, this is all very well documented, are to take over the world. One of the best ways of taking over the world is to control people's minds and to take over a country through the control of the minds. So what's happening in America, and based on my research and my interviews with numerous individuals, is that the powers that be, the higher-ups, the people in the Illuminati, are using the satanic cults as a means and as a tool to condition individuals and to make them victims of the mind control, MK Ultra mind control program. There's probably close to 4 million practicing Satanists in the United States alone, based on my intelligence information.
If the many authors on the subject of the occult are correct, and Tony Blair has been initiated into the 33rd degree, then his pseudo-Christian morals will be compromised by the fact that devil worshippers and high-ranking Freemasons have walked through the corridors of power hand in hand for centuries. The Royal Archmasons describe their highest-ranking brothers as Grand Solicitor Generals of the Supreme Grand Chapter. There is a secret word, the name of the true Masonic God, which none are allowed to say in public. This name is Yarbulon. The Masonic God is not the same God of the Bible, which the Masons call Adonai. Yarbulon has been described by Christian minister Canon Brian Brindley as an unholy compound of the Hebrew name of God, Jehovah, with the heathen names for Baal and Osiris. The highest ranks of Freemasonry utter Yarbulon as the one sacred and mysterious name of God. Yarbulon is a tripantheon Masonic god, in part deified as the historical Baal, which the Oxford English Dictionary confirms as being a Hebrew word. Baal is the chief male deity of the Phoenician and Canaanite nations. To the tribes of the Old Testament, Baal was the devil himself. Albert Pike is America's most celebrated Freemason. Pike was Grand Commander Sovereign Pontiff of Scottish Rite Freemasonry in the southern and western United States from 1859 to 1891. Scottish Rite Freemasonry has its own headquarters at the 33rd degree in Edinburgh. The United Grand Lodge of England has tried to deny that the true god of Masonry is Yarbulon, or has anything to do with the devil. But Albert Pike describes Yarbulon as a symbol of the infinite and eternal Godhead, a mongrel word whose name has been for 2,000 years an appellation of the devil. On the 14th of July 1889, Albert Pike issued these instructions to 23 Scottish Rite Supreme Councils throughout the world. We worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 30th, 31st, and 32nd degrees. The Masonic religion should be the Luciferian doctrine. Lucifer is God. The true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer. So, Yarbulon is really an alternative name for the devil. The last syllable, on, is a code name for the ancient Egyptian god Osiris, who was the god of the dead. There can be no doubt that the Scottish Rite form of Freemasonry in America and Britain is controlled by high-ranking 33rd degree Masons who worship Satan or Lucifer as their god.
We're talking about occultic forces. We're talking about the five-pointed pentagram, which was used by satanic worshippers for thousands of years. If you take the 5 points off of a five-pointed star or a pentagram, you have left in the middle a pentagon. The pentagon is directed toward the North Star because according to the ancient Babylonians, that's where you gathered power from the gods of the North in war.
it out.
It is us that have been telling you about the banksters. We have opened the door to show you that although the economies of Africa have made their money, have pegged it on the dollar, but the dollar is really run by thieves and hooligans, by murderers, by liars and cheats, by conmen and swingsters. They are the people that govern the world and look after the stock exchange.
What's going on in America today? Why are we over our heads in debt? Why can't the politicians bring debt under control? Why are so many people, often both parents now, working at low-paying, dead-end jobs and still making do with less? What's the future of the American economy and way of life? Why does the government tell us inflation is low when the buying power of our paychecks is declining at an alarming rate? Only a generation ago, bread was a quarter, and you could get a new car for $19.95.
The problem is that since 1864, we've had a debt-based banking system. All our money is based on government debt. We cannot extinguish government debt without extinguishing our money supply. That's why talk of paying off the national debt without reforming our banking system is an impossibility. That's why the solution does not lie in discussing the size of the national debt, rather it lies in reforming our banking system. This is the Federal Reserve headquarters in Washington. It sits on this very impressive address, right on Constitution Avenue, right across from the Lincoln Memorial. But is it federal? Is it really part of the United States government? Well, what we're about to show you is that there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve, and there are no reserves. The name is a deception created back before the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913 to make Americans think that America's central bank operates in the public interest. The truth is that the Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by private stockholders and run purely for their private profit.
That's exactly correct. The Fed is a privately owned for-profit corporation, which again has no reserves, at least no reserves available to back up the Federal Reserve notes, which is our common currency.
Oh, absolutely. The Federal Reserve is neither federal and has doubtful reserves. It's a private bank that is owned by member banks. And it was chartered under the guise of deceit by an act of Congress in 1913.
If there's still any doubt whether the Federal Reserve is a part of the U.S. government, check your local telephone book. In most cities, it is not listed in the blue government pages. It is listed in the business white pages right next to Federal Express, another private company. But more directly, U.S. courts have ruled time and time again that the Fed is a private corporation.
These leaders of these so-called free democracies, they don't practice democracy in their country. They don't spare democracy in their country. They make money through wars and drugs. That is why they went to Iraq to kill. That is why they funded Saddam Hussein. That is why America has invaded over 60 democracies in the last 40 years. That's why they invaded Congo and killed the president of Congo, the prime minister, Patrice Lumumba. That's why they killed Mossadegh in Iran. That's why they brought Saddam Hussein into power and again funded Saddam Hussein so that he can kill his own people. When they talked about liberating Iraq, and they went and caused mayhem in Iraq.
America's second favorite excuse for war, Saddam Hussein, has always been America's patsy. In the 1980s, the United States supported Iraq's invasion of its neighbor, Iran, to stop the spread of Iran's Islamic Revolution. America played both sides of the Iran-Iraq war by supplying Saddam with chemical and biological weapons of mass destruction, and at the same time, America secretly sold weapons to Iran and illegally diverted the money to the Contra-revolutionaries in Central America.
During the war, the United States sent a special envoy to see Saddam in 1983. He was Donald Rumsfeld.
now the U.S. Defense Secretary. The two men discussed how to reinforce Iraq against a common enemy. This was at a time when Iraq was using chemical weapons on Iranian troops. U.S. companies were supplying components with Washington's knowledge.
By 1990, President George Bush Sr. tricked Iraq into another war with another oil-rich neighbor, Kuwait. How? By supplying Kuwait with horizontal drills that could reach beneath the border of Iraq and siphon oil from Iraq's oil fields. Kuwait used the U.S.-made drills to steal 300,000 barrels of oil per day from Iraq, worth over $3 billion annually.
The fuse was lit, and Kuwait did nothing to put it out. They pumped oil without restraint from Rumaila oil field, which was accessible to both Kuwait and Iraq, and they exceeded OPEC quotas, flooding the market and driving prices even lower.
George Bush Sr. officially promised not to interfere in Iraq's legitimate oil battle with Kuwait, but when Saddam's army entered Kuwait to defend their oil reserves, Bush pounced on them.
Our goal is not the conquest of Iraq. It is the liberation of Kuwait.
America disposed of its toxic waste problem by building radioactive depleted uranium right into their bombs and dropping them on Iraq. Bush Sr. not only devastated and poisoned Iraq's water systems and infrastructure, he weakened the economies of both Kuwait and Iraq, collected giant profits from rationed Iraqi food for oil programs, and landed massive rebuilding contracts in Kuwait. Bush Sr. followed up the Gulf War with 10 long years of deadly trade sanctions that killed another 1.5 million Iraqi people, including 600,000 children who were cut off from medical supplies.
A bookstore in the United States today, you can find 50 books celebrating different aspects of the war and how grand it all was. And you only find one that points out that this was a war crime, that demonstrates the evidence that shows that we deliberately targeted civilians and killed more than 250,000 people in Iraq.
You'll be fighting not to conquer anybody, but to liberate people.
In March 2003, President George Bush Jr. launched the second Gulf War. The war on Iraq wasn't about revenge for 9/11, since not one of the 19 accused terrorists were Iraqi citizens. It wasn't about weapons of mass destruction, which inspectors hadn't found. It wasn't even about Saddam Hussein, who had been financed into power by the U.S. in the first place and who got his chemical and biological weapons from American companies. No, the U.S. wars against Iraq and against Afghanistan were about mass murder and piracy. They were about big weapons sales, big oil, big pipelines, big drugs, and big rebuilding contracts. They were about colonizing the Middle East and moving 2 giant steps closer to world domination.
Come out! Open the door! Open the door! Get your hands up and come outside! Come outside! Everybody in the house needs to come outside! Out here in the yard, out here in the yard! Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going.
No one there. No one in there.
Let's start, sir.
Yeah, clear the house now. Let's sweep on down straight.
Keep going.
أنا أروح أشتريها ب6 أنفار. أنا ما أريد هاي الحرية، ما أريد هاي الديمقراطية، وأخويا وأطفاله راحوا من عندي، وهذا اللي ترونه ها من الدماء والجروح واللي الدمار اللي
The theft and devastation of this ancient land by the U.S. government closely resembles the theft and devastation of Palestine by the Israeli government. Saddam Hussein made the mistake of comparing himself to Babylon's King Nebuchadnezzar. The capture of Iraq and Saddam Hussein was not just about oil and colonization, it was also about settling an old Hebrew score.
We got him.
On December 13th, the producers of 911 released a new reality TV show called We Got 'Em. The Iraqi people claimed the We Got 'Em video show was staged. Why? Because the video shows ripe, yellow-colored dates growing on a tree to the left of the hole, where Saddam Hussein was supposedly captured. Every Iraqi citizen knows that Iraqi dates only ripen and turn yellow in July and August, never in December. Since date trees don't tell lies, the We Got 'Em video had to be staged at least 3 months earlier in July or August, not on December 13th as reported. How could Saddam, who is almost 70 years old and over 6 feet tall with a bloated belly, squeeze in and out of a hole that small? How could he have grown a beard that long in such a short time? Why did he dye his hair black while in hiding? For his CNN close-ups, perhaps?
TV Africa is our story in our rebirth and regeneration. And TV Africa is you.